This is why the narcissist still obsessively thinks about you. You aren't just another name in their long list of conquests. You are the one they can't shake, the one who lingers in their thoughts no matter how much they try to deny it. You didn't fade into the background like the others. You didn't offer shallow praise to keep the peace. You saw past the performance. You questioned the narrative. You didn't play along. You challenged the illusion. You weren't there to inflate their ego. You held up truth like a mirror, and they couldn't look away. You loved them with a fire that came from your core, not to earn their affection, but because love is simply how you show up in the world. You gave when it cost you, stayed through storms others would run from, and believed in their healing long after they gave up on it themselves. That is what frightened them the most. You became a reflection they couldn't control. You didn't show them the polished mask they wear for the world. You revealed the cracks, the fear, the emptiness beneath. And once you stopped reacting, once you stopped explaining, once you pulled your energy back and met them with silence, the spell broke. That quiet withdrawal was thunder in their world. It dismantled everything. Because you carry something they couldn't replicate, something they barely even recognized. A depth of spirit, a core of truth, a presence that couldn't be imitated. In a sea of surface-level praise and easy validation, you brought gravity. You brought soul. You brought realness. And once they had a taste of that, everything else felt hollow. They tried to replace you with anyone who would play the part. But no matter who came next, it only highlighted what they lost. Your power made their manipulation look childish. Your presence exposed how small their gains really were. Your love redefined their standard, one they'll keep chasing, but never touch again. You didn't just walk through their life. You transformed it. You became the measure they compare everyone else to. And even if they act unbothered, even if they bury themselves in distractions, deep down they know you weren't unforgettable because you demanded space in their life. You're unforgettable because you were the only one who ever showed them who they really are. Number one, you were their safe place. And then you weren't. They'd never say it out loud, but you were the one space in their life where they felt something resembling peace. Not because they confessed their secrets or let their guard down easily. That's not their way, but because your presence had a grounding effect on them. You didn't pressure them. You didn't try to fix them or outshine them. You just existed in their world with unwavering love, especially when everything around them was crumbling. You were steady, solid, and in their whirlwind of lies, chaos, and constant performance, you were the only part that felt real. They came to you not with vulnerability, but with exhaustion, masks slipping, truth cracking through the surface. They never said thank you. Never acknowledged how deeply they leaned on your energy, but they felt it. They knew it. When everything else felt like noise, you were stillness. And then something shifted. They pushed you too far. The disrespect, the manipulation, the taking, it wore down even your boundless compassion. You didn't scream. You didn't slam the door. You simply stopped offering what they had long taken for granted. Not as punishment, but as self-preservation. You removed the safety they never earned, but always expected. And that quiet withdrawal hit harder than any dramatic exit ever could. Now, in the echo of your absence, they notice. In the gaps where your understanding used to live, in the silence of new relationships that lack your depth, they realize it was never your attention they craved. It was the way you made them feel safe, and nothing else compares to that. Number two, they can replace the face, but never the feeling. Sure, they may quickly find someone new, someone who plays the role, looks the part, doesn't ask questions, claps on command. Someone who fits the mold better than you ever tried to. But that new connection, it's surface, it's scripted, because no matter how perfect the replacement seems, the emotional experience isn't the same. Because you didn't just witness them, you saw them. You picked up on the things they never said out loud. You noticed the shift in their tone before they even knew they were upset. You gave them the one thing their entire life had lacked, authenticity. You didn't engage with their act. You felt the person hiding beneath it. You weren't just warm, you were real. You weren't a mirror that fed their ego. You reflected the emptiness they tried so hard to bury. And while they may have tried to dominate you, to own you, deep down they were drawn to how your presence made them feel alive. But they destroyed that. They broke the one thing that made them feel something true. And now, every attempt to recreate it falls flat. Each new partner only reminds them of what they lost. The spark, the soul, the emotional depth you carried without effort. It doesn't exist in the world they keep trying to build without you. Now from the sidelines, they watch your life unfold. Quietly, longingly, knowing full well that no one else brings what you brought, and no matter how hard they search, the version of themselves they felt with you is gone. Because you were the one who made them feel human. Number 3, they ridiculed your sensitivity, but secretly relied on it. What a contradiction, right? They rolled their eyes at your feelings, dismissed you as too sensitive, as if caring deeply was some kind of weakness. They labeled your emotional awareness as a flaw, a burden. But the truth is, your sensitivity was a superpower. It was the very thing that allowed you to tune into them on a level no one else could. You could feel when their mood shifted before they even said a word. You noticed the unspoken pain behind their smiles, the quiet weight in their silences. You asked about things they hadn't even processed yet. You didn't just hear their words, you felt them. You responded with grace, not because you were fragile, but because you were intuitive, compassionate, present. That's what empaths do. They hold space, they adapt, they offer warmth in a world that's often cold. But they couldn't handle being truly seen. So instead of appreciating that depth, they mocked it. They called it dramatic. They tried to shrink it. Because you were the one thing they couldn't manipulate. Someone who responded from truth instead of reaction. And now that you're gone, that presence, that deep emotional intelligence, is missing. Now they're surrounded by people who don't look beneath the surface. People who laugh at the right times, but never feel what's underneath. Conversations are shallow. Interactions feel empty. They're left trying to fill a space that only your spirit ever truly occupied. The very thing they criticize turned out to be the thing they can't forget. Because when they silenced your sensitivity, they lost the only person who ever truly understood them. Number 4, your emotional depth made their manipulation games irrelevant. Your presence introduced something they weren't prepared for: substance. In a world where they thrived on distractions, mind games, and shallow control tactics, you brought a kind of emotional weight they couldn't fake or dodge. Your insights pierced through the performance. Your empathy made their tricks look obvious. Your truth made their lies feel hollow. They're used to playing with surface-level emotions, charming their way through interactions that require zero accountability. But you asked real questions. You saw the inconsistencies. You didn't just accept what they gave you. You felt when something didn't align. And that terrified them. Because true depth requires presence, vulnerability, the kind of honesty they run from. Around you, their strategies didn't work. Not because you fought back, but because you simply saw too much. Now they're left searching for something they can't name. They go through new connections, new admirers, new distractions, but none of it compares. None of it carries the gravity you did. No one else challenges them to look deeper, and no one else makes them feel as exposed or understood. They lost the one person whose soul made theirs feel seen. Not because you tried to play their game, but because your depth made the game itself irrelevant. Number 5, your quiet strength disrupted their entire illusion of control. Most people wear down under the constant pressure of a narcissist's games, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the emotional roller coaster. That's how they win, by slowly eroding someone's sense of self. But with you, it didn't work. You didn't collapse under the weight. You didn't break. Instead, you adapted. You grew stronger. And your strength wasn't loud or flashy. It wasn't rebellion or resistance in the way they expected. It was stillness, calmness. You kept showing up for yourself, even when they tried to convince you that you were the problem. Every time they tried to drag you down, you rose a little higher. Every time they tried to confuse you, you saw a little clearer. That unshakable resilience, that quiet refusal to be destroyed, shook them to their core. It was something they couldn't predict, couldn't dominate, and definitely couldn't copy. You became a puzzle they couldn't solve, a presence they couldn't control. And that's why they couldn't stop watching, couldn't stop obsessing. You weren't just different, you were indestructible, and that scared them more than anything. Number 6. Your empathy wasn't a weakness, it was your superpower. Narcissists are used to weaponizing empathy. They manipulate it, twist it, feed off it like an energy source. But yours was different. Your empathy came with insight, boundaries, awareness. You weren't just emotionally open, you were emotionally intelligent. You didn't give blindly. You didn't enable. You observed. You understood them in ways they didn't even understand themselves. You saw behind the performance. You read between the lines. You heard the fear beneath the arrogance, the sadness behind the rage, and the desperation inside their control. That terrified them. Because while they were trying to use your heart was quietly reading them like a book. They couldn't manipulate you the way they did others, because your empathy didn't make you weaker. It made you wiser, stronger, sharper. You weren't a source of supply. You were a mirror, and that mirror reflected things they didn't want to face. So instead of embracing the light you brought into their world, they tried to dim it. Not because it wasn't valuable, but because it was, because it revealed what they lacked, because it reminded them of everything they were not. They weren't afraid of your emotions. They were afraid of what your emotions revealed, that you were powerful, intuitive, and far more grounded in truth than they ever were.